consequences of those. You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that
I just
word.
said crosshairs. That's what we focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on it. Focus on what he's doing. Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. There's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said, I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that wouldn't accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. And so the focus was on what he's saying, and the idea.
But have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who were not balanced?
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I'm not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about to be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all the, actually, I guess, suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested and sentenced to go to jail because of what happened in the Capitol. I'm not out there making fun of, like, when I remember the picture of Donald Trump when Nancy Pelosi's husband was hit with a hammer, talking about joke.
Hey, Brandon, Trump did not say, I want to be a dictator from day one. You're a liar. Trump did not refuse to accept the outcome of the election. If he did, how the hell are you living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Trump does love America, and he does so 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. He did so without receiving a single penny for being the president of the United States. He donated all of his salary to nonprofits. You see, Trump has millions of dollars, and Trump could go kick back in Florida and relax. He doesn't need to do this. He didn't need to put himself through 4 years of hell that the Democrats gave him. And now he's back for more. For what? For the love of this country. No other reason. You, on the other hand, are responsible for the decline of America, the decline of America's people, and failed leadership across the globe. Trump is not, nor has he ever been, a threat to democracy. You and your administration, with your hateful rhetoric and words that incite violence. And to answer your question, sir, no, you don't say a word if all you have to say is lies and words that will incite others to take action against your opponent. You know, it was you, sir, who called the Republican members of Congress terrorist. That was your actual words. You referred to the Republican members of Congress, as terrorists after the failed assassination attempt of Gabby Gifford. And that, sir, incites violence. Folks, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight for the live broadcast of the Douglas Ducote Show. What has the rhetoric continued to do? Well, a man was shot and killed by police today in Milwaukee, where the Republican National Convention is being held. The shooting happened near 13th Street, about 2 miles from the RNC. Milwaukee Police Association confirmed that an outside police agency was involved in the shooting. Columbus police said 5 of the department's officers fired their weapons and 1 person was killed. One witness said the man who was shot was a nearby homeless man living in a homeless camp. The witness added that the deceased was brandishing a knife and threatening when he was shot. Multiple upset residents, some claiming to be friends and are family members, were arguing with police and looking for answers about the shooting. When some residents learned the deceased was shot by outside officers, they got upset and they slammed the RNC and Donald Trump and Republicans for coming into the town with out-of-town police officers. Well, it's sad that your family member or your friend was killed. Number one, they were making threats and they had a weapon, and they refused to follow orders of law enforcement. And number two, the RNC nor Trump is responsible for bringing out-of-state police officers, or any police officers for that matter. That is the sole job of the Secret Service, who decide which agencies will be involved, period. That wasn't enough. A man armed with an AK-47 and wearing a ski mask was arrested yesterday, just blocks away from the RNC convention, according to federal law enforcement sources. Homeland Security investigators and Capitol Police were conducting surveillance near the RNC perimeter when they noticed a suspicious man approaching. He was wearing a ski mask and carrying a tactical bag, and inside that bag was the AK-47 and fully loaded magazines. His intentions are unclear. Milwaukee police confirmed the incident, saying a 21-year-old man was arrested around 1 p.m. on the 1200 block of North 11th Street. Police said the man does not have a concealed weapons license in Wisconsin or any other state. Charges, as you can imagine, are pending, and they're being reviewed now by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. I've been saying this, and for those of you that follow this show, you know damn good and well I've been saying this for a long, long time now, several years, that the outright lies and fear-mongering coming from the left and Democrats is going to lead to somebody getting hurt. The fact that the Biden campaign is running on President Donald Trump as an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs is a type of inciting violence that led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Make no doubt about it, that is a fact. Now, Democrats and liberals will say nothing was ever said that would be considered inciting violence towards Trump and his supporters. They're already saying that. So let's shove facts right back into their blatant lying faces. Almost every Democrat member of Congress in the House and the Senate, to include left-wing media outlets like CNN and MSNBC, on record, have said Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He is a fascist, a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, a communist. And they are on record comparing him to Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, Mussolini, just to name a few. Let's look at some of these people and comments. Joe Biden, while on a phone call with private donors, and the recording call was released by none other than CNN, quote, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye." That is inciting violence, right? Democrat Congresswoman Maxine Waters calling her supporters to publicly confront and harass members of the Trump administration and mega supporters. Quote, "Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. After those comments, Waters appeared on MSNBC later in the day to double down on her remarks, saying she has no sympathy for members of the Trump administration or MAGA. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell their president, no, I can't hang with you. Is that not inciting violence? As if that was not enough, Democrat Representative Maxine Waters said she will take Trump out herself. A video posted online by the mainstream media shows, quote, wow, what a moving event this is, Waters is heard saying as the video of the event at the Ali Forner Center in New York City. I'm sitting here listening, watching, absorbing, thinking, and with this kind of inspiration, and she yells, I will go and take Trump out myself. California lawmaker said to the cheers of the crowd, is that not inciting violence? Within just hours of Trump being shot, Democrat Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, aka AOC, posted to Twitter, X now, that Democrats who are already conceding to a second Donald Trump presidential term are caving to fascists. The outspoken Democrat representative shared an article from Access that notes senior House Democrat official said, we will all resign ourselves to a second Trump presidency at this point because they know Joe Biden is mentally no longer fit to be president. And they're waking up to all the things they've done to him through the years, whether it's the Russia hoax or the quid pro quo or the many lies about his businesses, about his families, the lawsuits piled on by the hundreds, the impeachment while he was president and after he was president. Luckily, failed in the Senate both times. And then the corrupt liberal Democrat judges and DAs going after him and trying to put him in jail. And then we end up with this, an assassination attempt. AOC went on to say, if you're a senior Democrat that feels this way, you should absolutely retire and make space for true leadership that refuses to resign themselves to fascism. Again, when you keep referring to somebody as a threat to democracy by saying they're fascists, is that not inciting violence? When Democrat Representative Benny Thompson's field director, who runs his Twitter account, Jacqueline Marshall, posted on Twitter, X now, about the shooting of Trump, quote, I don't condone violence, but please get some shooting lessons so you don't miss the next time. Is that not inciting violence? To Democrat Benny Thompson's, give kudos where kudos is due, she was fired. She's out of a job for that tweet. Democrat Representative Alejandro Mar said Americans should be more fearful of white men when discussing the threat of jihadist terrorism. Minnesota Congresswoman was asked about her comments in an interview with Al Jazeera about the rise of Islamophobic, citing the attacks that killed 8 people on a Manhattan bike path in 2017 and the 2015 terror attack in San Bernardino, California, that killed 14 people. She said, quote, "I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country," Omar said. And so it fears was the driving force of policies to keep Americans safe inside this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men. Is that not inciting violence? But how soon the Democrats and the liberals forget about those. And friends, that was just a few that I read to you. If you want to take the time to look at the rest of them, it's all over social media, YouTube, on Rumble, on X, you name it. Just put in a simple Google search of all those on the left and the Democrats that have said inciting violence things against Republicans, conservatives, and Donald J. Trump. There's hundreds of them from just about every Democrat in Congress, to include the president himself and everybody in his administration, to Hollywood actors, singers, and many liberal business owners and those that are associated with the left. It's disgusting. I want to share with you a piece that was written by David Marcus. He's a columnist living in West Virginia and the author of Charade, the COVID lies that crush a nation. Excuse me, couldn't get that out. The most central and important rule of the Biden administration is that nothing that happens is ever the fault of the Biden administration. It's not just that the buck stops with the president. It doesn't stop anywhere in the executive branch, including, we now know, the Secret Service. In the aftermath of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, we've heard that the once and likely future president was being protected by a mix of Secret Service agents and state and local police. And as it has become more obvious that the Saturday attack was a huge security failure, the finger pointing and ass covering has begun. The Secret Service is blaming local law enforcement. Local law enforcement is blaming the Secret Service. Let me make one thing perfectly clear to anybody that is wondering about this. And I'm telling you this as a veteran law enforcement officer who was working in law enforcement when presidents came to visit the area that I was in, and somebody that's got friends up in the FBI and places like that. It is an advanced team from the Secret Service that is supposed to go out ahead of time and verify any and all locations that a possible shooter could be at. It's the Secret Service's job to do that. And then to share that with local law enforcement that are there to only support the Secret Service detail. That is how it works. What we're listening to and what we're hearing, it's a disgrace. It's lies. According to Secret Service spokesman Anthony Galligman, the federal agency was only responsible for the actual grounds where Trump spoke not the surrounding area, which he claims was the responsibility of local police. You, sir, are a fucking liar. This is nonsense. The idea that the Secret Service was not responsible for a building with perfect sniper sight lines 150 yards from where the Trump was speaking is a strain of credible. It snaps it in half. And the idea that guarding Trump was up to local cops and not the agency whose sole mission is keeping protectees safe doesn't pass the smell test. We're talking about the life and death protection of a former and at this point likely future president of the United States. You don't outsource that to local cops in a town of 13,000 people. It's like asking Andy Griffith to hunt down ISIS. The director of the Secret Service, Kim Chastel, we have come to understand, is a massive supporter of diversity, equity, and inclusion, making damn sure that Secret Service agents are hired based on their sexual orientation and their sex over their qualifications. After Biden in 2022 made her the second woman ever to lead the agency, she boasted to Security Magazine of her powers at breaking glass ceilings at the agency's website, states that she's responsible for executing the agency's integrated mission of protection and investigations by leading a diverse workforce. It's too soon to say that this obsession with DEI came at the expense of Trump's safety. But we all saw the video of the shooting aftermath, where a female security member of the security detail of the Secret Service was about a foot shorter than Trump, tried to cover his body, and another struggling to put her gun in a holster, which she couldn't even find. She was so shook up. It made the Keystone cops look like Kojak. Let's be blunt. She should be fired, the leader of the Secret Service. It should have happened days ago. But as Trump pointed out in the debate, nobody ever gets fired by Joe Biden. Jake Sullivan still has his job after saying the Middle East was calm about 10 minutes before Hamas attack on October 7th of Israel. Alejandro Mayorkas is still running the broken and busted border, and now Secret Service directors' incompetence and bizarre priorities have come within a whisper of getting Trump killed. At this point, I have no idea what somebody would have to do to get fired by Joe Biden. Maybe burn down the White House? We all know that people make mistakes and that sometimes people aren't good at their job. If that person is an office manager or Batista, we'll all survive. But when your job is to keep the leader of the free world breathing, you don't get to make oopsies. Now would be a good time to start changing all that. For Biden to summon his inner Harry Truman and say the buck stops here with him, and that he does have the backbone to let people go that are incompetent and put American lives at danger. But we all know very well that that isn't going to happen. After the horrible Afghanistan debacle withdrawal, not a single member, high-ranking, anywhere in the administration or the DOD was fired. Once again, there will be no consequences, no transparency, no accountability. Just the same shameful pat on the back, and you do better next time is all we see. America deserves much, much better than this. The father and husband who was murdered under the not so watchful eye of the Secret Service certainly does. Not to mention that they almost killed Donald Trump. Things sure changed when Donald Trump made a surprise appearance last night at the Republican National Convention. I don't know if you saw that or not. His Secret Service detail looked much different. Members were taller, more male, and looked more like law enforcement and less like a combination of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's a little too late. It was too late to save a brave American husband and father, and nearly too late to save the Republican presidential nominee. It needs to stop before more Americans lose their lives. Very well written, sir. You all may have seen over the weekend, in between all this that happened with Donald Trump's assassination attempt, how the left came out and they posted it freaking everywhere. They were all excited that the polls were turning around. And now all of a sudden, Biden is leading Trump in the polls. The rest of us that weren't liberals and Democrats were going, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense. Well, the poll was put out by NBC. They hired a polling company for this latest poll. And they've now revealed a massive mistake in a survey that they released over the weekend that appeared to show President Joe Biden ahead by 3 percentage points nationally. Former President Donald Trump, not Biden, had been ahead by 3 points in the multi-candidacy race, according to a statement from the company. The company acknowledges its mistake Sunday night, well after many Democrats had seized the opportunity to post this everywhere. The polling team extends its apology to NBC News and to all those who reviewed the filled-in questionnaire of our most recent survey the company posted on X. We made an important mistake on the filing in the release today. On the multi-candidacy ballot, Q8 correction here. We flipped the numbers accidentally. President Biden is not ahead with 40% to 37% for former President Trump. In fact, Trump is ahead 40% to 37% for Biden. The correct data is reflected in the cross tables and slides, but unfortunately, those numbers were flipped in the top line document that the polling firm prepared for public release for NBC. We take full responsibility for a very significant error on our part. Deep apologies. There represents a massive 6-point swing to Trump in what would have been one of Biden's most successful polling efforts in all the polls, actually, which has generated favorable only for the former president. Politico reported that the correction is zipping across the text messages of Democrat leaders as many Democrats push the original poll results on social media. A local Democrat Party chairman, Christy Jackson, posted the poll's original results in a breaking news format. Another prominent Democrat social media account, Biden Wins, also posted the original poll's results, remarking, President Biden has erased the post-debate gap despite the media going after him relentlessly. And I made sure to go to that account on Twitter and share the real true story. And once again, tell him he's wrong. The poll's original results would have made a compelling case for Biden, who has been the subject of significant media inquiry as some of his own party nudged him to step down. The poll's new results align with much of what recent polling has indicated, which is why the rest of us were shocked when MEC came out with his poll and said, something's not right here. Trump is leading Biden in the presidential race, period. Trump led Biden 45 to 43% in head-to-head polling in the same survey, a result much closer to the corrected multi-candidate polling numbers. No national polls have incorporated Saturday, a day in which Trump was nearly assassinated, in polling yet. The events could shift the 2024 presidential campaign significantly. And I guarantee you, by Friday, when the new polls come out, the liberals and the Democrats and the Biden administration will be shedding some tears, because it's over. You've done the least, you've done everything you possibly can to stop Donald Trump. From lies, covering your own ass, making up shit that's just not true, repeatedly saying things that are so far-fetched that only your liberal base believes it because they're a bunch of idiots. Everything you've attempted to do has backfired, to include inciting violence enough that somebody decided to try and kill Donald Trump. You all are responsible for that, Democrats and liberals, that have been pumping out all these lies that are coming from those in the DNC, those coming from Joe Biden and his administration, going all the way back to before Donald Trump was even elected. And everything you've tried to do since to try and stop him from becoming the president again. I'm going to tell you something, folks. I don't go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, all right? That's not something that I like to dabble in at all. But I'm going to tell you right now, as a former law enforcement officer, as a former member of the United States military, something is very, very wrong with what took place with this attempted assassination. Very wrong. If you watch the timeline and you listen to those that were interviewed on the news as witnesses to all this, there was a moment in time, probably a good 4 to 5 minutes, that law enforcement with long rifles had this guy in their scope and didn't pull the trigger until after he started shooting. Why? I want to know why. We, the people, demand to know why. How is that possible? I can assure you, for those of you who don't know anything about law enforcement, other than what the liberals try and tell you, which is wrong, a law enforcement officer, just like you, a citizen of America, have the right to use deadly force if you feel that deadly force is about to be used upon yourself or someone else. No questions asked. You don't need to call for backup. You don't need to call your supervisor and get approval. If you see somebody is about to kill someone else, or you, as an American citizen, you have the right to shoot them and kill them. And these cops, for 4 or 5 minutes, watch this guy low crawling across the freaking roof, and not a single one of them, two cops up there had him in their scope. Who were they talking to? Do they have some kind of a SOP within their agency that we don't know about that says that you don't have the option of shooting unless your supervisor approves it? I don't know. But I want to know the answer to that. I mean, it's great that they finally took the shot, but why did you wait? And the bigger question is, why was the Secret Service snipers not up there? Because I can tell you right now what their job was. If they would have been in that position, immediately, as soon as they identified the threat, they would have engaged the threat. Of course, under this new leadership at the Secret Service, hell, maybe that's changed. Maybe there's an SOP policy that says, no, we don't do that anymore. But something doesn't add up. And it doesn't take someone like me or anybody that's currently in law enforcement to tell you that something doesn't add up. It's common sense. I want to know the answers. I got a bunch of answers, or a bunch of questions. I think I have the answers. The U.S. Secret Service has increased protection now of former President Trump in recent weeks due to the intelligence also suggesting a possible plot by Iran to attempt to assassinate him. Department of Homeland Security and Secret Service have been increasingly concerned about Trump holding outdoor events and have even expressed concern to Trump's campaign. Trump has been increasingly targeted since, when he was president, he ordered the killing of an Iranian general responsible for killing American service members. I want you to understand this. Listen very closely. A few weeks ago, and it could have been months for all we know, could have been 3 years for all we know, because at this point, I'm not believing much of anything that's coming out of the Secret Service or Homeland Security. But let's just go on in recent weeks. The Secret Service and Homeland Security said that there is a credible plot by Iran to assassinate Trump. And you're concerned about it. And you didn't have Secret Service advance team come out and check that damn building or any other. What did you do? You obviously weren't concerned about some 21-year-old kid coming up that happened to be a registered Republican. Isn't that odd? But you were concerned about assassination attempt being ordered by Iran, and we know for a fact that there have been Iranians and other Middle Easterns on the no-terror fly list arrested at our southern border trying to sneak in because they can't fly in because they'd be caught. How many got through? And your show of force for that event was a shit show. Today, Donald Trump called the family of the man who was killed during the assassination attempt on his life. Trump called the wife of Corey, and I'm not sure how to actually pronounce his last name. I'm going to try. If I mess it up, I'm sorry. Compantore. It's Compratere, to express his deepest condolences. Now, the left and the Democrats were already screaming, why has Donald Trump not reached out to her? Well, he just got shot, and he's got a whole shit ton of stuff going on and moving, and I'm sure there were attempts made, but they finally connected, and he has spoken to her. But the bigger thing here is Joe Biden tried to call her and share his condolences. And when her family answered the phone and went to hand her the phone and said it's the President of the United States, she refused to take it. And they politely told Joe Biden, we're sorry, but no thank you. I want to remind everybody that on June 28th of this year, so just a few weeks ago, Joe Biden tweeted out the following. Well, not him personally. I don't even think he knows he has a Twitter account or an X account. But the people running his campaign that run that tweeted out the following. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. I made a screenshot of it for you if you haven't seen it yet. There it is. Go to Joe Biden's Twitter page. Go back to 28 June and read it yourself. When you say shit like that, somebody is going to lose their life. I've told you right here on this show so many times that the words coming out of the left and coming out of the Democrats is very harmful. Now, have Republicans or Trump said some things that's also not appropriate? Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that. But I don't see them saying things to the level that's what's been coming out of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. Or the host, or the people that the hosts bring on CNN or MSNBC, for crying out loud, that are telling you day in and day out that if Trump's elected, your life's over with. He will never step down. He's worse than Hitler. You've heard a Republican say that? If you've heard a Republican refer to a Democrat as worse than Hitler, I'd like to hear it. Share it with me. Now, It's possible that I've said some horrible things about Democrats in my past, and Republicans too, for that matter, because both parties are full of shit. But I don't believe I've ever called for somebody to have a bullseye on them or made comments that they should be taken out or that I'm going to go take them out like Maxine Waters did. There's a fine line that you should walk when you're in the public's eye. I know I walk that line all the time, every show I do. But the left doesn't. And the Democrats in Washington, D.C. do not walk that line. They say things that justify law enforcement arresting them. Yet they don't. But you can bet if I or any other conservative or Republican on social media were to say some of the things or tweet some of the things that's coming out of the mouths of Democrats in Washington, D.C., that are members of Congress or actors in Hollywood, for crying out loud, the FBI be knocking down my damn door. Why are they allowed to incite violence? And now, to the point of getting someone killed and almost killing the former president of the United States. When is enough enough? We can only hope that come November, come midterms, everything is back in the hands of the Republican Party. And then our work's not over with. I'll be the one leading the charge to hold their feet to the fire and hold them accountable for the things they should have done the last time they had all three branches of government, and they didn't. It is time that those in power, the Department of Justice and the FBI and the Secret Service, realize that Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. And those that have been abusing our justice system, and man, there's been many. You've all watched it. We've talked about it. They need to be held accountable. Damn it, they need to be held accountable. They need to be arrested for what they're doing. And hopefully, when Republicans take back control, they will hold people accountable. But I assure you, we the people are going to have a battle keeping them to do their job. Because I know what I was up against the last time Republicans were in charge of all three branches of the government. I was beating my head against the wall going, what are you doing? Making phone calls, sending emails, asking you guys to do the same thing. And many of you did. Because it didn't make sense. And I've shared with you all the things that Republicans have talked about doing. If you elect me, all the great, everything you want to hear. And then they get elected and they cave to big money from corporations. And then they don't give a shit about you anymore. Some people wake up and realize that and vote them out. Some people, like in California and Nancy Pelosi's district, don't. They're okay with everything in their district being like a third world country. Somalia. They're fine with that. My friends, as we get closer to this election, I have no doubt that the social media giants that are controlled by the left and by Google are going to do everything in their power to censor people like me and other conservatives and Republicans that are on social media platforms. So it's very important that you look in the description of any one of my videos or my live show and see the other places that you can follow me. And you need to do so. You need to follow me on the Douglas Ducote Show Rumble channel, because they're not going to shut me down. YouTube, on the other hand, may shut me down because they're run by far left and Google. Regardless, hey, subscribe to this channel because I'm going to keep pushing my factual points out there as long as I can do it before they get tired of hearing the truth. Follow me over at on Twitter, on X, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Where else are we at right now? We're on on True Social and other conservatives and Republicans as well. Follow them too. They need our support. And always, you can go to douglasducote.com to our website. And because when the time comes that the left starts shutting us down, you'll still be able to hear the message on these other sites that are more favorable towards freedom of speech and the Constitution, instead of those that are trying to destroy it. My friends, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank God that President Trump is okay. To the family of those that lost their husband, their father, Republicans and conservatives, and I know many Democrats that aren't part of the establishment in Washington, D.C., are praying for you. And we're so sorry that the Democrats in Washington, D.C., and especially Joe Biden, has allowed their hate speech and their lies to influence someone to take your loved one's life. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Please join me right back here this Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central for another live broadcast. If anything breaks between now and then, I'll either go live or I'll put out a video about it. Other than that, whatever you're doing tonight, please be safe. Make sure you tell those that mean something to you in your life that you mean something to them and they mean something to you. We need to do more of that. Mankind needs to be more kind. Thank you, my friends, and God bless. And I'll see you Thursday night.